Hello, welcome to another episode of Your Age is Not Your Cage with Carla Allen. And I'm happy to be back with you again today. And I have a repeat guest that has been on, Amanda Porta. She is the holistic beauty coach. She was on in a part 2 series with Robin Tout. And you can go back and listen to those. I'll put them in the show notes so you can go back and see which ones those were and listen. They were amazing. But I had to bring Amanda back on because ever since I've recorded with her, she's a friend and we share stuff back and forth. And she's got some new things to talk about today. So let me tell you a little bit about her, just so you know kind of what she's about before we get started. But Amanda, like I said, is holistic beauty coach, and she blends her love of aesthetics and natural health to help her clients achieve optimal results. She's worked in all areas of the beauty industry for 20 years and is trained under some of the best practitioners in the country. Early on, Amanda realized the importance of incorporating holistic health, which is mind, body, spirit, into all of her treatment plans. She is passionate about educating people, and she now inspires others to become their personal best. Having experienced breast implant illness, or BII, Amanda explanted, detoxed, and finally healed her body. This illness and recovery inspired her to guide other women through their explant journeys. In her survival, she has found a niche as a patient advocate for women experiencing BII. And we go more into the BII, breast implant illness, in the previous episode. So if it's something you want to learn more about, go back and listen to those because such great quality information in those. But Amanda has advised globally thousands of women, not just hundreds, but thousands, celebrities, athletes, normal women just like you and I, prominent business women, have all entrusted their expertise to support them through their health crisis. They trust Amanda and her expertise, and so do I. So without going on further and further, I am going to introduce you to Amanda. Please give her a big welcome. You're going to love this one. Hi, Amanda. Welcome back.
Hello, Carla. Thank you for having me
Oh,
back.
I'm so happy you're here. It was such a joy when we did our 2-part episode a while back. And so I had mentioned in my intro, you and I have stayed in touch since then and just shared different things. And you just have so much to share to others. So I wanted to have you back on again to talk about some other topics and some different things. So, but for those that don't know you or haven't listened yet, let's give a little details, a little background on you, and just share whatever it is you want to share when it comes to just your background.
Sure. Well, I am speaking out because I've worked in the beauty industry, everything from day spa to med spa to plastic surgery over the last 20 plus years. And when I had chronic illness for 7.5 and found out it was from my breast implants, and I read so many other women's stories, and I truly was shocked. I talk about that a lot. It felt like being in the Twilight Zone, reading all of these stories from women with the same symptoms as mine, finding out that it could be their breast implants, removing them, and then getting full resolve in many cases, that I felt like I had to speak out because I had never really heard of that while working in the industry. They don't talk about that in plastic surgery at all. In fact, a lot of women go through medical gaslighting, and I was one of those women. And so I felt like I needed to do something to have these women's backs. I mean, literally, I was on my recovery bed reading all their stories and how they'd go back to surgeons and say, I think it might be my breast implants. And then they would say, well, they'd gaslight them and say, well, you should have known that they cause hormonal issues and autoimmune. And no, we don't talk about that in a consult. And I certainly didn't know that. And I certainly didn't know the chemicals in them. And so in doing so, I wanted to really, after removing my breast implants, make many changes in my life, from the foods that I was eating to the water I was drinking. And so I slowly did that. and then used my platform to empower other women who were explanting that it would be okay, and that if it were in fact their breast implants as the root cause, they could get better like I did. And many of those women want to take on a more holistic lifestyle, which includes their beauty habits. And so I gave up Botox too, and showed women what holistic facials were like and other things that they could do to look and feel their best, and not necessarily add more chemicals to their toxic bucket, if you will.
Well, and I really do believe that women out there do want more options. They just aren't sure what to do, what direction to go. And, they really have to seek it out to find it. And I also believe that as a society, as a culture, we tend to go to what's easy, what's quick, what our other friends are doing. And instead of really researching and finding out what some alternatives are in the holistic beauty, natural aging world.
Yes, and I talk about that a lot too on my platform, the societal pressure that we have, and it's getting younger and younger. Girls are doing Botox at a much earlier age, and the breast implants at an earlier age. And then as we get older, then we can look back and in hindsight say to ourselves, wow, we think we're invincible when we're that young. And if you had told me there was even a slight possibility that I could have gotten as sick as I did, I don't know how I would have felt back in my 20s, because I didn't even really know what autoimmune was. It doesn't run in my family. And the hormonal disruption, that started really pretty soon after getting them, but I would have never connected it. And now seeing more and more women talk about Botox illness, I don't want to let, my breast implant, I don't want to dilute my message there. So I don't heavily talk about it, but we do. My followers are amazing. And if you read my posts, you'll see, it's very active. They all comment a lot and they share their stories. And so I do think that I have a duty to talk about the Botox illness, as well as the breast implants.
Well, and I'd like, before you go on from that, to dig a little bit deeper than that, because I've had other people on here before just touching on Botox. Tell the listeners what it is for you. Like you said, you decided to quit doing that. Like why? What were your main reasons, and what differences have you seen? Any differences since you stopped doing that in relation to health or anything else, and aesthetically too? Whatever you want to share on that.
Yeah. It's interesting because I did have a certain level of discernment working in the industry all of those years that I can't really explain. It was just kind of that inner voice that I really do listen to. Not to say that I had it with the breast implants, but with the Botox, certain things stood out to me over the years. For instance, when women would come in and say, well, I'm pregnant, can I do Botox? And our answer would be, well, you need to check with your gynecologist and then get back to us. And some would come back and say, oh, they said it was fine. And something inside me just thought, I just don't feel like that's fine, but I'm not one to judge what somebody does. And so it was little things like that. And then when I found an account, Never Talks, on Instagram, Gretchen, who runs it, is amazing. And we kind of started, after COVID, getting a lot of followers. And so I would share her posts, and the more and more that I read about Botox and the serious side effects that it had, I just felt like after what I've been through, I can't take any chances on anything after this, because I had such an immune reaction. And, I was more nervous about that, I have to say, than the breast implants, although I was very lucky to have a beautiful surgery and have a really beautiful outcome. The Botox, I'd done that for 20 years, because in that industry, like I always say, that's kind of like that's like the portal to opening you up to everything else. They want to start you on the Botox and you really need it. And I didn't need it in my 20s. I don't even really know any other gals at the time who were doing it that long ago in their 20s. And so I was more nervous about stopping that, right? Because if you've done something every 3 months for that long, I didn't know what it was going to look like. But I also love myself enough to say, I also don't want to put any more chemicals in my body. So I stopped. And quite honestly, do I have more movement? Yeah, can you see it? Like a little
Yeah,
bit?
I
But I
do.
like it. It
Yeah.
looks normal. I
I have
turned
I have
58.
lots of movement, but I
I
don't
turned
care.
50. Right. In November, like I'm supposed to have some lines, right?
Yeah.
So, but I do holistic facials and we talk about this. When you have stagnant lymph or stagnant blood flow, that's what expedites aging. I think we have it all wrong. And I've been saying for a long time, wouldn't the muscles in the face just be just like the muscles in your body? You go to the gym to work those out. Wouldn't you work out the muscles in your face? And
Hmm.
so, yes, and showing women about buccal facials and using the gua sha tool, they can do it on their own. They've really embraced it. And I know that for me, I don't even notice the Botox at all. And there were frownies. I just did a really great live with the woman whose family runs frownies. You can do alternatives like taping like that. So I love it. I really think that like holistic beauty is the future and is now. And I've been saying that since 2012.
Right. Well, and okay, because I want to dig into each piece of that, and especially for women that don't know. And I wanted to back up a little bit when you were talking about the implants and Botox and doing it for 20 years. And when you got the implants, you didn't think about it. The thought that came to my mind is how many of us, though, in our 20s, I mean, we think we're invincible, that we have until we're 80. And
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about all that right now.
Yeah.
And I know that would have been my mindset wrapped around all that too, because you're just not thinking about ahead or autoimmune or how's this going to affect me or what about all the surgeries I have to have down the road to replace these.
Totally.
And so I think that's a lot of things that drive this industry too,
Hmm. Hmm.
is the younger women and also with the Botox are just not thinking about down the road. Or even take Botox, for example, if you start that and then, like you said, it leads to, you know, doing it frequently and many other things. How
Hmm.
many years down the road can you afford to do that?
Right.
Is the
Right.
crazy thing.
Absolutely.
How much money do you pour into that?
Right.
Um, and all of this, and we've said this before, and I've said it on all my podcasts, none of this is judgment. It is awareness, just helping
Right.
women be aware of what's
Right.
going on and that there are other options and alternatives like what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to shame anybody, and
Right.
anybody can say like, "Oh, well, she had to get her implants out, so she just wants everybody to have them out." That's actually not true. I actually don't, go to dinner parties talking about breast implants all day long. I have friends who still have them, but they know my story. So in case they ever did start experiencing the same symptoms that I did, great. I just want them to know so they don't waste 7.5 years and hundreds of thousands of dollars like I did, trying to go to all of these different specialists and not knowing what it was when I could have just removed them and spent that money to heal and on my surgery.
Right.
And the same with the Botox. I've heard, and again, I've not experienced what I would consider any illness with Botox at all. I was lucky because every different things are your kryptonite. Like the breast implants were my kryptonite, but for another woman, the Botox could be their kryptonite or, a number of different things.
Right.
But I've heard that you can have 1,000 injections of Botox and then on 1,001 have a reaction. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, I'm going to do a live soon with one of my followers who's an esthetician, and she was still doing Botox, and she just had a reaction.
Mm.
And she was shocked because she said, "But I've done it for so many years and I was fine all of those times.
Right.
But now she did, for whatever." And she's a very healthy person and takes a lot of care of herself. So I just couldn't sleep at night if I didn't share this. And again, do with my information what you will. I am not trying to hurt anybody's, like for the surgeons there. Like I'm not trying to hurt the way that they make money and so forth. Not trying to take that away. There are plenty of people who are still going to do all
Right.
of these
Right.
things.
Well,
Um,
it's all about knowledge. Knowledge is power, educating
yeah,
ourselves and becoming our own best health advocates. That
totally.
and we are here to help put out information that might help somebody. And that's it. And so let's move from that and let's talk about the different options and the different things that you know about and that you've learned about and that you can share with the listeners?
Right. So I learned to really appreciate my lymphatic system when I had the breast implants. I noticed swelling in my legs that wasn't there before. And again, I was, going to doctors who were telling me that I wasn't really that sick and there was nothing really wrong, and the tests weren't showing that anything was wrong. But yet, physically, you could see that like my detox pathways were not functioning properly, which didn't really make sense to me. And so I finally did some thermography right before I got my implants out, because I actually wanted to track the inflammation and see if we could see where it was and how it got better after removing them.
Now share what that is, because I've even mentioned that to women as alternatives to mammograms before, and so many women aren't aware of what that is.
Yeah, thermography uses heat. And so they do a scan of your body and you see the different areas with different heat patterns. You have to have somebody who's really great at reading it, though. That's really important. And it's not really recognized in the medical community at this point. They wouldn't use that. I did a sonogram instead.
Yeah.
And actually, so I did thermography right before it wasn't to check my breasts. I was checking for the inflammation in my body. But what I noticed was my major lymph ports, my collar, right area there, my underarms and my pelvis were flaming red. And then I thought about it and I thought, I don't really sweat a lot. And as we know, we need sweat and we need to sweat for detoxification. Yeah. So I posted my thermography photos on Instagram, and it was one of my like most commented on posts. And women said, I said, are you guys sweating a lot? And a lot of them said, actually, now that you mention it, I don't sweat a lot, or I haven't sweat a lot since getting my breast implants. And I thought, well, we only have so many detox pathways. And so if we're not sweating, the health of our body, the lymphatic system is what carries out waste and so forth from our bodies. So it's really important that it's functioning well, especially when we're talking about, days of pandemics and so forth. We have to have our immune system, at its healthiest. So if you think about it too, our face is full of the lymph system is just an intricate network of vessels all through our face. So then I would go back to, again, the discernment that I had over the years, because remember, I didn't really have to pay for all of these things either, working in the industry. Many times people who work there, we get things for free. I, however, though, am very particular about things. So even though I was working for great practitioners, I would pay out of pocket to go to a nurse that I really liked for my Botox. But like filler, I never really did. And at one point, I worked for a facial plastic surgeon who was excellent, but I just didn't do it. My discernment said no. And then I started noticing women who did a lot of filler. They looked really puffy to me. And I was like, gosh, that, doesn't look good. And that's what I'm talking about. I believe that it congests the lymphatic system and the lymphatic vessels in your face. And that's not healthy. We have to keep everything flowing, our blood and lymph, because that's what expedites aging. And so a stagnant lymph and blood that's not flowing, whether it's in our body or in our face, that's what's going to cause premature aging. So don't do filler, don't do Botox. I love holistic facials. That would be like the easiest thing for someone to do. You can even do a lot of it on your own. I think I shared with you one day, weren't you saying something about noticing behind your ears? And I was sending you some videos and showing you how you could work on that area.
I was having issues with clogging in my ear. And I had been doing, you had told me how to rub back there and what to do. And the drainage, the pathways there. And I mean, it makes so much sense. And I just find it also interesting in before, a few years ago, I had never really thought a lot about lymphatic health. And that's why I love that you're talking about it, because I think a lot of women out there don't realize the importance of the drainage and all those pathways, or what to do. Even when you say a holistic facial, like what does that look like then if the listeners are out there and they're looking up to where do I go? What do I do? What are they looking for?
Well, again, you could search for holistic facial, so it's
Mhm.
getting to be more popular. Gua Sha is the tool that they started using for holistic facials, and you can use on your own too. You don't have to go in for a facial to do that. But that too is encouraging lymph flow, the way they use it with oils, which is beautiful. I never used oils on my skin. In fact, I noticed that too. The products that I use that were more medical grade, I guess, if you will, from the industry, those inflamed my skin and I felt like it aged me. So I started looking into more natural products way back in like 2002. And I had a fabulous esthetician at the time, Pamela Bond, who had her own line, because it's hard to find products that are truly non-toxic.
Mhm.
Because if you really look into it, aren't necessarily, or are in glass, which if they're in plastic, I still don't want to use them because that's leaching into them. I had a big eye-opening experience when I started creating in 2015 a non-toxic skincare line for a plastic surgeon. And I started interviewing manufacturers around the country to figure out who was going to make it. And I remember one in Florida, the CEO, we were having a discussion about it, and he did the skincare lines for many big names. And he said, Amanda, you're so funny. You're the only person that's really questioned what's inside the bottle.
Mhm.
Most people only care about what the bottle looks like. And do you know what's inside it is not worth that much? That's not the expensive part, it's the packaging. And so I thought, okay, we're in trouble then because we
Yeah.
have no idea what's inside those bottles. And I created that line way back then in glass. Does it cost a little extra? Yes, but people are willing to pay for it for their
Mhm.
health.
Yeah.
So that was an eye opener. Buccal facials were also great. And that is kind of funny to people at first because the esthetician actually goes inside your mouth
Yeah.
and to do an interoral massage, which can be great for actually releasing. It's good for TMJ, but also releasing emotions that are trapped. And the first or second time is kind of uncomfortable, but the more you do, the easier it gets.
Yeah.
A fascia facial, which again, not as comfortable, but your fascia, that is what keeps us youthful in our bodies too. The fascia blaster that they use.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, well, that tool, but the idea of that was kind of the beginning of all of this, and I
Do
think
they
that's
use a
really
tool with the fascia?
no, and they do a
I-
different. It's kind of like a pinchy facial.
okay.
So
Okay.
one of my estheticians does it. Not all holistic ones do, but like that's what I'm talking about. We're not supposed to be stagnating things like
Yes.
with the Botox. We've got to keep things moving and flowing and massaging. So holistic facials are just to include more massage. I guess that's the way you could look at it, more
Okay.
so than the typical.
Yeah. And I've seen the
And
videos of the buckle, and isn't it Buccal? Is that right?
correct. And so
Buckle.
people want to pronounce
Yeah.
it buccal, but it's
Right.
actually pronounced buckle.
Yeah, so people can look that up too. And
Yes.
but when I've seen the videos and I've seen what it looks like, it's crazy how they just work all around your mouth and holding the inside and out. But to
Yes.
me, it still looks like it would be amazing because I think too, because I always I can't imagine what that's doing just to release things
Yes.
in your face. And that's what I look at.
Absolutely. I know it does look a little crazy at first. I did a segment for KTLA and I did it with a gal here in town in LA that has a beautiful spa. And she really made this popular. She's got a huge following on Instagram, Kosha Spa. And we had one of the gals from KTLA on to experience it. And she made it really funny because she's a funny person, Dana Devon. But at first you're like, what is this? And she's moaning and groaning, but it was hilarious. Like it was a really great segment of that. But trust me, it really does work. And women are loving it and they're really embracing it. And you're hearing it more and more people talking like this now. And even celebrities.
Yeah.
They're talking about giving up Botox and regrets on some of these things, even in their 20s.
Mm-hmm.
So I really applaud that, their honesty and authenticity. But again, everyone's got to get there when they get there. So I'm not trying to cram it down anybody's throat by any means.
Yeah. Okay. So we're working on the lymphatic system, the flow,
Yes.
and we've been talking all about the face.
Mhm.
What about further down? What do you use, recommend for, I mean, because we know we have lymph nodes all over our body.
Yeah. And again, I don't think that we can run out and get a massage every time we need to do this, right? That's why I want
Right.
to teach people to do it on their own. Trampoline,
Mhm. Rebounder, yeah.
mini trampoline. I just did it this morning. That's one of the first things I do when I wake up, especially in this area. Even if you can like jiggle like this, a lot of our lymph is right all in here. And so that's what gets
I'm
things
watching
going.
you and I'm wanting to do it.
And you can see these kind of videos on YouTube, which are free. Look, lymphatic massage. And there are different ways that you can massage with your hands. There are also what they call contrast showers. So I try to do it. I don't do it every time I take a shower, but you're taking a shower with your hot water. And then when you are ready to get out, you put the water all the way to cold. So it's freezing, right?
Yeah.
And then as soon as it's like freezing, then you put it to warm and then you put it to cold. And so the lymph system doesn't have its own pump like the heart does. So we have to keep it flowing. And doing that is with like rhythmic things, like the bouncing, like this,
Yeah.
like the massaging, like, you know, right behind your ear. This is a really great one. You take your fingers like that behind your ears to open all of that up. So you really can have your self-care each morning, like your routine, like maybe before or after you meditate and ground, you know, you have your little morning ritual that you do. I love rituals like that.
Mhm.
And they're easy and they're free. They don't cost anything. And so then if you want to have a lymphatic massage for your body, and that's different, you know, it's gentle. It's not a deep massage. You find somebody who specializes in it, and maybe you do that every other month. And then you're walking, and then you're doing yoga. You're doing all of these rhythmic things that are keeping it open. And so I can tell when mine is open and flowing. Also, if you don't drink enough water, your lymph fluid gets thicker and it doesn't flow as well. So keeping hydrated is a big, big, big deal.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are really simple, easy ways that you can work on yourself. And the gua sha tool is great. They have ones not only for the face, but for the body too. And I always share in my stories. So if you've been following me for a while, people know my stories get a lot of attention. I must.
Your stories are great. I love them. I love them.
Right? They're so fun.
Yeah.
And so I always am including all this information and showing different really talented practitioners and people who are doing this kind of work. So
yeah, it is. It's so helpful, and it's the information that we need out there. And it's funny you just mentioned the contrast therapy with the hot and the cold, because I had been doing some researching a little bit on cold plunging, because there's so much on cold plunging and the things that, and this is one person's opinion, but one of them that I learned, and because of some of the things that I do have with autoimmune and Raynaud's and some things, cold plunging can be difficult for someone like me. Sometimes even people with, you know, thyroid, Hashimoto's, whatever it is. But I had heard but the thing that can be really good for people with any kind of conditions like that is contrast, and go hot and cold, hot, instead of all out once, you know, cold plunging. And I'll say the biggest problem I have here in Texas is my water doesn't get cold right now. I mean, it's just like cool. When it's summer and hot, I'm on well water. I'll turn my water all the way to cold, and it's literally just cool, which is, you know, but now in the winter I could do it. But I think it's interesting, because I think that's another thing, you know, we jump on different bandwagons of for example, cold plunging or whatever, but it doesn't mean it's good for everybody. But yet I feel like holistic beauty, lymphatic, clearing that out, rebounding, all the things you've mentioned, those are things that benefit everybody, you know?
100%. Yeah. And jump roping is great too. Jump roping is just a little bit, it's hard. Like people don't really think about
It's
that.
hard.
I haven't done it in a while. It's hard.
Yeah.
And even rebounding, you have to work your way up. I mean, at first, I don't know about anybody else, but I get a little bit bored. But then you start like doing other things with it and using your arms, And again, even if you can do it 5 minutes, 10
Yeah.
minutes, it's going to be beneficial to you.
Yeah.
That's interesting you say that. And I do kind of have to say that that resonates with me when some say that the cold plunging, it might just be too much. It's very extreme. And so that's why I like the contrast. So just like you're saying, because that's not that extreme.
Right.
So you can
Right.
still have the benefits.
Right. And for some people, cold plunging is, it's okay for them. But I think it's another way to be your own best health advocate is by learning about these things instead of just jumping right in and doing. And that's kind of what I was kind of doing it on the cold plunging too, because I'm like, I just can't make myself do it.
Yeah.
And so then I was actually kind of happy when I heard contrast therapy was better, because I'm like, I could do that. That is something that I could tolerate and do. Okay, so what else? What other is there anything that we're missing that you do as far as getting improved blood flow and your lymphatic system moving?
Well, I mean, like I said, working out is key, especially as we get older. I was just applauding you when we got on the phone because every time I've talked to you, you say like, "Oh, I'm going paddle boarding, I'm doing this." It's so it can be so challenging as we get older and we get busy. And I've been experiencing that lately where I told you I'm not getting to work out as much as I normally am. And boo on me. Like I need to I've said I'm going to the gym tonight. Like I'm not getting it. But we get really caught up in our lives. And again, like walking to me has always been my go-to because like if you have an injury, because I've always been athletic or I've had a surgery, I always would tell patients too when I was working with them, start walking, even if it's just, down your driveway after the first couple of days of surgery, even if it's down your block, you just have to start somewhere.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Start somewhere. Doesn't matter.
Start somewhere.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And as we get older, it's really important, weight training. So, and I need somebody to really keep me going. So like I usually have a trainer to do that. And I always say, try different things. So I love it that you're always doing different things. Like me too. Like maybe it's hiking one day and maybe I do an Orange Theory type of class another day or work out with my trainer or just walk.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love to challenge myself, which is what the paddle board event is all about. It is a challenge. It's going to be tough. It's it's a 1 day deal of toughness. The training and the practice isn't so bad because it's enjoyable. But I like to challenge myself too. And like you, once you get back into that routine, once you create that regular rhythm, it becomes that daily habit. And it will. I mean, I have to do mine in the morning or I lose speed during the day. And then all I'm up for is a walk later. Where in the morning I am much better to go to the gym and do my strength training.
Yeah. And we need to sweat. Like I fell in love with the infrared sauna after getting my breast implants out.
Yes.
I don't know if there's truth to the fact that doing a lot of infrared sauna can help to deteriorate the shell of the implant. There is some talk of that. I've heard some doctors now just starting to talk about it. I don't know if that is true or not. But after you get them out, wow, that was a huge part of detoxification. And it's so great for your cardiovascular health. I mean, there are so many studies that talk about infrared, but we have to sweat, right? Which can be for some women, they're like, oh, I don't want my hair to get sweaty and like hot yoga. I need to do that more. But I was doing it for a while and just never felt so good. Did my hair look terrible all week long? Every time I had to.
Well, I told you before we got on. I mean, literally, I'm a sweathead, a sweaty mess, especially here in Texas in the summer. I literally sweat a lot, and so I know I'm sweating out toxins, and it's also why you see me in a hat all the time because
me too.
I am not doing my hair every day, but like you, I have an infrared, so I don't have a sauna. I have the loom box, the small one. And I use that every day. And one of the times I use it a lot is before bed while I'm reading, and I'll have that on me. But I love that. And I also have an infrared sauna blanket. I think you have one, don't you?
I do. I do. But if I can go to the infrared sauna, I just prefer that. But the infrared
I know I do too.
It's just great if you don't have one close to you or you can't
Yeah.
get to one. And, I like what you said earlier too. I wanted to highlight that the wait and see approach. And I always use the wait and see approach in the beauty industry. Like if something new came out, like a laser or radio frequency, I'd say to myself, like, I'm going to wait and see. And I saved myself a lot of issues. Like cool sculpting was one thing that I didn't jump. I don't think I really necessarily needed it, but I was like, I'm going to wait and see on that one. And lo and behold, like I definitely saw some issues that I didn't like on people with that. And so I think the same though goes for the health. Maybe what works for one does not necessarily work for another. And so you have to kind of, do the wait and see approach. The issue is though, too, with the beauty industry, there's a lot of information that's not out there. So when people say like, you have to research, my response always is, right, but if the information isn't there, then how can you research? Or if it's misinformation?
Yeah, that's a good point, because, or don't just listen to one person, because that's one person's opinion. And I think we fall into that on a lot of things. So for me, before I jump into something, just like with the infrared, with the red light therapy, before I purchased mine, I didn't just listen to one person or one thing. I definitely dig in and really make sure that it's for me and what with my body and the conditions I might have. I think that's what's important for people to really check into also, is what's going on with you, what kind of things do you have, and make sure that they know that before they jump deep into something.
And speaking of that, I mean, it's again going with what everybody else is doing, because everybody else is doing it. I've never been one to, I always kind of just have marched to the beat of my own drummer. I don't go along with what everybody says. I'm not trendy at all. Like I'm still the girl who wears like old Levi's and a t-shirt, and maybe in high school it was penny loafers and now it's flip-flops, but it's never really changed. I'm still the same. And I did feel the pressure, like I said, with the Botox, only because I was working in the industry and my boss was saying to me, like, you really should do some in your forehead. I saw her years later and she had gone way overboard with the filler, and it kind of shocked me because she was the one who taught me never to encourage people to go overboard with it. But you lose sight of it really quickly. With the boobs, with the cheeks, with the butts, with the everything seems to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And you can't undo some of this stuff either. But I think the biggest message that we owe to the younger generations too is that societal pressure of like bigger, better, or faster, easier, instant gratification. My parents always said that if it sounds too good to be true, like it usually is.
Yes, that's so true.
So we have to use that discernment that we have and just, like I said, hold out and wait and see and listen to that inner voice. Because they want to put fear in you. They're like, oh, after the age of 40, your whole body breaks down. And doctors tell these women this that I've worked with, like, oh, it's normal to have like 40 symptoms after the age of 40. No, it's not. A body just is seeking balance, homeostasis. And so same thing, like everybody's different and our genes dictate certain things in our lifestyle. But I mean, I don't feel like I look my age, and I certainly don't act it. And we all have, different energy. And so I just feel like people want to give up, and it makes me so sad. Like,
I know, me too. And I don't know if you want to share your age with people on here. And how old are you?
I'll be 51 this November. And no, I'm proud of it.
Yeah,
and that's
exactly. I know. I mean, I knew you were, but I always like to ask it. But I'll have to ask, November what?
Oh, 13th.
Okay, mine's the 7th.
You're a Scorpio? Oh, I didn't know that. No wonder I like you.
So November 7th, I will be 60. Which is, it's crazy. That's only a few months away. But I don't have 400 symptoms or 40 symptoms.
No.
And when I do have a symptom, when I do have something that I can tell my body is telling me something, I dig deep and get to the root cause and find out, okay, what is causing this?
Right,
So
right.
it's not something we have to live with as we age, like the myth is, because that's such a false narrative, and it's just not true. And I mean, looking at you in your 50s, and we are both doing a lot of things in our lives, and we're active, and that's why I love to have people like you on, because I want to encourage and inspire women through people like you that this is what 50s looks like, right here. And it can be absolutely amazing.
It can be absolutely amazing. I mean, like I said, I'm the healthiest I've ever been. Do I wish that I had learned some of this earlier? Of course I do. But
Yes.
if I hadn't gone through it, I wouldn't have realized
That's right.
it all and wanted to make those changes. So I appreciate that too. Yeah, I think that what we've been told is a lot of it's false. And so we have to find our own truth. And girl, I've seen pictures of you and video in the gym, and you tear it up. So I appreciate that. And I've even been in like a terrible car accident where I got hit 60 miles from behind back in 2001. And again, I need to start really probably taking that seriously, because as you get older, but I mean, if I can get through that and get through 7.5 years of chronic illness when I had over 40 things wrong.
Yeah.
And for the most part, I have to say, I think I've made like a full recovery from that. My immune system, sometimes I wonder, like, is that as strong as it needs to be? But I just continue to keep working on myself. And that's physically, mentally, and spiritually. Like, it doesn't stop for me.
Right.
But, for some women, they get their implants out or they get over a chronic illness and they're like, okay, I'm good now. And that's the path that they choose.
Yeah.
Right? We all have a path to choose and a way to live our lives.
Well, and I think, the thing is, the beauty of it is your story. It's your story that has encouraged and inspired and helped women. And we all may have parts of our story we wish weren't parts of our story, but then we realize this was the story that I have been given, because it is here for me to help others that are going through same or similar type things, so that I can be an encouragement to them. And that's what your stories are to others. And I want to ask you, before we start wrapping up, share with me, as far as getting rid of toxic products, share with me maybe some things that you're using. And again, knowing that it's something you're using, it doesn't mean that everyone's has to use the same things, but just some ideas of how you've removed toxic things and what you've incorporated.
Yeah. And like I said, it's a slow process. I don't think anyone should rush it. I started with little things, and this was back in 2012. Like, I started looking at the deodorant I was using. I started looking at the water that I was drinking. So I made changes that way. Then again, I didn't know for all those years what it was, that it was something inside me that was making me sick. I wasn't sure. But then you start you start hearing like, oh, the products that we're using have all of these different chemicals in them, called like forever chemicals. Did we ever know about that years ago? No. It's even in some of our workout clothes that we have snugging onto our breasts and bodies. And women don't know, like, I'm going to be coming out with a breast balm to massage our breasts. Again, the lymphatics. We have our breasts usually in tight bras or underwire bras. They can't breathe, and we're not massaging them. Why isn't that part of our nightly or daily, or just our self-care routine? And in doing that, you're doing self-exam at the same time, and so that's a really great thing. And I told you, I was never really impressed by skincare that I used in the industry. I was always more impressed, like with Pamela's line, because there are some organic products out there that what I say, like, you don't really see a lot of difference with, because they're just so organic that you don't really see that they're not active ingredients. And that's why I liked Pamela's line. So I wasn't really ever impressed with the lines that I used when I was working in the industry. So I got rid of all of that a long time ago and stopped feeding into it. And I would just like simple things, like a very simple, gentle cleanser, or I would look into Korean lines, etc. Very simple though. I think people would be surprised, even though I had all of these products I could have in my medicine cabinet. I really didn't get into all of that. I never got into retin A ever. Again, my discernment was like too much, too abrasive, too much. And I'm glad I didn't even go down that road. So it took me a while because ever since I've had my platform, of course, the first thing everyone DMs me is, well, what skincare line do you use?
Mm-hmm.
And I kept saying, like, I'm not going to really talk about that yet because I don't want to like hitch my wagon to something that I don't know has integrity. And again, I'm taking a wait and see approach on everything. But one of my followers who I love, she kept talking about this new line that had come out that had been in Europe for the past 20 years, and it was now just coming to the States. It was called Oliveda. And one of the main ingredients in this hydrotyrazole, I think it's called, yeah, hydrotyrazole. It comes from the extract of the olive leaf from Italy. And my family is Italian, and I love the idea of that. Who doesn't love olive oil?
Yeah.
I do. And I love the story of the gentleman who started it. He was talking about, like we all do, like he was working in corporate America and it was always bigger, more, burn yourself out. And he was never happy. And then he got really sick and he healed himself holistically. And then he wanted to do something that really like impacted people's lives. And so he started this beautiful line that's in glass, by the way, has natural things. Like there's one called Botox in a bottle. So like if that is important to you to minimize fine lines and wrinkles, go for it. If you choose not to do that, that's what you choose too. Cool, whatever. But it's natural things. Like they have a natural retinol that I use. And these serums feel so good. So I laugh because I kind of put her off for like 8 months. And I said, I know, I just don't want to jump on the bandwagon of anything. I want to take a wait and see approach. And I started looking at the photos of these women. If you just do hashtag Oliveda in Instagram, you'll see all the women selling this product, using this product. And their before and after pictures are pretty amazing. It reminds me of the before and after pictures of these women who get their breast implants out. The inflammation goes away. And they have a whole line of internals. They call them internals. They're elixirs that you can use in the morning. So I do a little shot of it every morning. And it also is helping with your gut health at the same time. So it's what I've been preaching since 2012, that we must have health on the inside to radiate beauty on the outside, right?
Yeah.
So if you're sick and not well and stagnant and your gut needs healing, how can you possibly be glowing and bright?
Right.
So I've been using the line for, I would say, a month. And I'm actually shocked. And ladies, I want to say, like, I'm not trying to sell anybody on anything. I really mean this because I'm so excited to have found something that I like so much. And I'm thinking, this might be my skincare line for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
The serums are beautiful. Like I said, the elixir in the morning, I think, is so beneficial for our health. They have a beautiful olive oil. And what I like about it the most, all of these women started selling it. And it was a lot of women who like lost their jobs because of COVID or wanted to stay home to homeschool their kids and wanted to make money on the side. And I love women and supporting women's endeavors. And so I thought, you know what? I like everything about this, from the man's story who started it, to the products themselves, to the women who are behind this. And they are making money for themselves and their families. And I think it's great.
Yeah,
so
I love that.
So I'm really excited about it, and you should try them sometime.
Well, I would love to try, and I love any kind of serum. I mean, that's what I love on my face. I don't use lotions, and I'm the same way, just very clean, and they feel so good on your skin. And
they
so
do.
I truly do agree with you 100% on that.
Yeah, and I never used them before because I thought, oh, I'm sensitive, and so it's going to break me out or something. Not at all.
Yeah.
And so, but this is the first time that I'd say that when you look at my skin, it looks really hydrated.
Yeah.
So like my friends are even saying, like, what are you using? Something's different about your skin. And I notice it.
Yeah. So and that's what we want. We want our face to look hydrated and glowing in that beautiful way, because as you age, it can get so dried out. And so where it does it it emphasizes lines, and I absolutely love it. And I'm always putting it on my face, even sometimes just during the day if I feel like I need a little more moisture, I put that on there. So I love that. And I'll put some, you can send me a link or some information, and I'll put it in the show notes for that
thank you.
too.
Yeah, that's great. The dehydration is what speeds up aging.
Yes.
And so many of us are dehydrated without even knowing it. Maybe we're drinking the wrong water. Maybe you need to add electrolytes. So, there's a lot to be learned all about that too.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I know there's so much to learn, and there's so much that you and I could continue to talk about, but I am going to wrap it up unless there's something I haven't said that you wanted to share that we haven't talked about. Yeah.
No, I just think we're going to see this trend continue of people really taking their health into their own hands. And that makes me so, so happy. And just teaching people to do some things on their own. We don't have to rush out to get a facial once a week or have a lymphatic massage. Let's figure out how to do these things on our own, right? With the way the economy is right now, people have to, make other choices. And just all be on the same page. And I think that the societal pressure, I am hoping we can continue to all kind of change the narrative on that. It's important for the younger generations because we're just being inundated with toxins now. This is not the world that you and I grew up in.
No,
it's completely different now. And their toxic bucket, you didn't hear maybe about as many women with breast implant illness before or Botox because we weren't being infiltrated with all these other things. And I just hope that doctors continue to open up their minds because, again, some of them have said to me, well, why are those chemicals in a breast implant shell? And I'm like, well, don't ask me. They don't even know. And they're putting these in other humans. And that's why I want to do better, because I was selling those to people, not knowing, not doing more research, not knowing myself. They were inside me. So, know better, do better. And I think we all need to do that. So thank you, Carla. You're just so wonderful.
You're so welcome. And I mean, I was going to say that I think it's up to us and it's up to other women out there to help change the narrative, to change the narrative around all of this. And I think we do that by sharing podcasts like this, by sharing stories, by you sharing, different techniques and all the things that you do on your page. And I will definitely link, all your socials and everything in the show notes, but the Holistic Beauty Coach is mainly where to find you. Is that right?
Yeah, that's the best place to find me. I can only manage one social media.
I know. I'm the same way. I know it's a lot. But okay, before we hang up, because sometimes I forget to ask this, what are you going to do that your age is not your cage? Or something you want to do where you're not going to allow your age to stop you?
Oh gosh, I mean, so many things. I think just, I'm going to continue to work hard. I'm working with a really, really cool, innovative company now, and it's all about frequency. And I'm just not going to stop speaking out or standing up for other women because I know that's what's right. And that's what I'm here to do. And I just hope that we can all get on the same page. And I mean, I'm as active and busy as ever. I'm not going to throw in the towel anytime soon.
I know. And this won't be our last podcast. And
no,
one of them may be on the frequency. So that we'll save that for, we'll save that one too for another day. But well, as always, I loved it. It was so much fun. I just love talking to you. And I know my listeners do too. And the information that you provide is so valuable. So just thank you for being you and for speaking out and doing all the things that you do.
Thank you so much, Carla.
Talk soon. All right. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining me today on Your Age is Not Your Cage with Carla Allen. Share this episode with friends and family. Amanda's information that she shares is so vital and crucial to get out there for other people to make their own informed decisions about their holistic beauty care, health care, skin care, everything that encompasses a holistic lifestyle, which is mind, body, spirit. So please share this. Don't forget to rate and review. It takes a quick second and it helps me out so much. Message me for any information, questions, anything you might have, or it's something you want to send, an idea you have, a guest you have for who might be a good guest on the show, anything. All my info's in the show notes. And I just appreciate every single one of you so much for being here every week and for your comments and the love that you show me. It means the world to me. So thank you. I never take it for granted. So join me every Wednesday for Your Age is Not Your Cage with Carla Allen. Until then, I will see you next time. Love y'all.